All right, let's talk about that most accurate forecast. Talk about fiery. We are heating up here in the valley. The 90s are back. We are going to feel every degree. And again, I know that we do get much hotter once we move into the summer, but this is our entrance into it. Our bodies are still adjusting, so don't take your body's abilities for granted. You will notice the fatigue of the heat a little sooner and maybe more often than you typically would. 93 is that forecast high for today. Typically, our average is 87, so it's usually warm this time of year, but not quite this warm. Thankfully, we're not on record watch. 105 was the temperature back in 2012 on this day. High pressure is sitting off to the west, just close enough to increase our temperatures, but a low pressure system and a disturbance moving in from the north will help us just a little bit. It will bring a chance of rain to the high country, the Four Corners area Sunday into Monday. It's also going to increase the winds here in the valley Monday and Tuesday, but then low pressure shifts and it makes way for the next high pressure system, and so our temperatures climb once again. Right now, pretty mild start to the day. We're in the 40s and 50s for the central portion of the state. Chilly up north once again to start the day, back in the 30s in Flagstaff. We're at the freezing mark at the Grand Canyon, so something to keep in mind. If you are spending weekends up north, you do still need something to stay warm in those early morning hours and the overnights. Out to our west, we're in the 60s right now, and across the southern portion of the state, still holding on in the 50s, but it is notably warmer this morning than it was 24 hours ago. We're up by 3 degrees right now compared to this time yesterday here in the valley, but in Flagstaff, a 10-degree temperature difference. Even though you're in the 30s, you were in the 20s at this time yesterday. About a 15-degree difference in Kingman, 11 degrees warmer this morning than 24 hours ago for Show Low. Right now in the valley, we're sitting in the 50s and 60s. A few places have dropped a degree or two, putting us in the 50s in Scottsdale and Mesa, as well as Goodyear, when we have pretty clear conditions. If you're headed out on the links today, certainly if you can book an earlier tee time, this is a weekend to keep that in mind. Even if you're planning ahead for tomorrow, it'll look similar. We'll be in the 70s at 9 o'clock, but our time in the 70s is very short-lived today. We're in the 80s already by 11, upper 80s at lunchtime, and then we're crossing over into the 90s right around 2 o'clock this afternoon, and we will linger in the low 90s through about 5 o'clock this evening. By 7 o'clock, that's when our sunset time is. We drop back into the 80s. So city by city, we're looking at highs in the low 90s for Apache Junction, right at 90 degrees, 92 for Santan Valley, a degree above that for Mesa, Gilbert, Tempe, and Ahwatukee, 90 for Cave Creek. Carefree will stay in the mid 80s today, one of the only places nearby that will. Across the West Valley, a little bit warmer, 94 for Litchfield Park, Avondale, and Goodyear. It'll be 95 in Buckeye and Surprise, even Wickenburg making it to 90 today. And then this evening, we were telling you about stargazing. We will have a few clouds coming and going, but you'll have some breaks. It's also going to be a more mild night, so you may not really need a blanket as you head out there. At 6 o'clock this evening, we're still in the 90s. Sunset at 7:04. That's when we start trending down into the 80s. 8 o'clock tonight, we're still in the upper 80s, so it's going to take us a while to trend down overnight. Across the rest of the state today, more toasty temperatures to our south, 80s and 90s in Casa Grande, Tucson, Gila Bend. Out to our west, a lot of 90s. The hot spot will be Yuma at 97, but Bullhead City is going to stay in the upper 80s. Really comfortable temperatures for the central portion of the state, not quite hitting 80 in Sedona today, and north of the rim still staying nice and crisp in the mid to upper 60s. So as we look at that 7-day forecast, we're riding out the 90s through early next week. We'll get a little reprieve with the breezes on Monday and Tuesday, and we'll even see the return of the 80s on Tuesday, but then we're right back in the 90s by midweek and climbing back into the mid 90s by the end of the week. And up north, you've got that slight chance for rain Sunday night into Monday and Tuesday.